Hey folks, back again for another vlog. This time we're finally back to Gravity Falls with Season 1, Episode 13, Boss Mabel. I've been running into a problem with this, and to an extent some of the other shows I've been talking about lately, where it's becoming a little difficult to find much to say. Unfortunately, Legend of Korra was, on a story level, very complex. There was a lot going on in any given 20 minutes. As much or more as you would find in a 40-minute drama at times. Steven Universe has a lot of interesting thematics going on. It's really pushing the boundaries of what you can do with a cartoon. And plus, I was doing 3 11-minute episodes per chunk. 22 minutes of Gravity Falls, at least most 22-minute chunks so far, they're a little short of things to talk about sometimes. Take this episode, for example. Boss Mabel. This was a very straightforward and predictable episode. From the start, it was clear that Mabel could not become boss for the rest of the show, and she could not wear a loser t-shirt for the rest of the show. So either they would both earn exactly the same amount of money, most likely 0, or they would both, win some amount of money, but then have to spend it all to repair damage to the shop or something. Or Mabel would win and, for one reason or another, decide not to remain the boss. Now, of course, you can make a case this is exploring the same stuff that the show's been exploring with Dipper a lot, which is this tension between wanting to grow up and wanting to stay a child. That's, at the core of being 12 or 13, whatever the Pines twins are. So for Mabel, she wants adult power. She wants to be able to make the decisions, but for a rather childish reason, because she feels that Stan is too mean and too aggressive, which he is. But Mabel, as we see in the episode, takes it too far in the opposite direction. She's too nice, too giving of a boss. Which, now that I say that, I realize this is virtually identical to a plotline on an episode of Bob's Burgers, which Mabel's actress is also on. So that may be one of the reasons this was feeling so stale to me. Regardless, she wants adult power but not adult responsibility. She wants to take on an adult role but still act like a child. That is the essence of adolescent ambivalence. But like I said, we've already explored that several times with Dipper. So even though, it's great that Mabel is finally getting a turn, we've already explored it several times with Dipper. It's feeling repetitive. It's feeling stale. The show needs to either be about more than that or find new ways of reflecting it. It came close. There was a little bit of a parallel between Mabel and the Monster of the Week, in the sense that the Monster of the Week's nightmare about turning into his father is its own form of adolescent ambivalence, its own worry about growing up to become too much like the adults you knew as a kid that maybe you weren't such a huge fan of when you were a kid. So that parallels Mabel's horrified realization that she's turning into Grunkle Stan. Though again, she's not. She remains more or less honest-ish, whereas he's pretty thoroughly crooked. If anything, Dipper becomes more of a Grunkle Stan clone than she does, right down to the clothing. But again, it's running into that problem that it has been to this well so many times with Dipper that even though it really needs to do something for Mabel, it feels stale just because it's a repetition of what we've seen with Dipper. And because some of the best examples were very early out of the box. That whole thing with the ghosts that hate teenagers, that episode was great. We need something that incorporates the setting better. Stronger parallels with a monster of the week that has more role in the story, maybe. Or something that takes advantage of the show's, quote-unquote spooky kind of vibe. Whereas this was something that could have happened in any show, with a mildly crooked adult. And one of the problems is that, again, Grunkle Stan's adventure is, as a B plot, it's pretty limited and straightforward and really done in a series of very quick scenes, which is fine, but it means it needs an A plot that can really fill the available space, and this just doesn't. Take away Grunkle Stan's B plot and you've probably still got 16 or 17 minutes for Mabel to fill. And in this episode, she just doesn't, which she's the most entertaining character in the show. She should be able to. And I don't know what else really to say about it. It's an episode that fell, for me, rather flat. It had some good gags in it. The brief glimpses of the pig, whose name I somehow always manage to forget, were great. Especially him as secretary eating the phone. That was great. The visual gag of Mabel in the suit with shoulder pads, great. But it just didn't feel like there was much there to talk about, really. This episode feels like the writers spinning their wheels. It feels like a word I hate, filler. It really feels like there was just too much of an episode by, and they were one idea short. Hopefully only one. I'm really hoping, because, the show started okay, picked up some steam, and now it really seems to be kind of falling apart. That's too strong a term. But it's definitely coasting. That's a better term. It's coasting here in the middle of the season. And I'm really hoping that in the back half of the season it picks things up. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's grabbing onto some kind of an multi-episode arc, or finding some way to inject some new life into these relationships and these characters. But something needs to be shaken up. Again, an episode focused on Mabel. I've been asking for an episode focused on Mabel for a while now. Excuse me. And what I got, just... Well, no wonder they haven't been writing anything about Mabel. They have no ideas of what to say about Mabel. They have no ideas of what to do with her. A Mabel-focused episode should be... it should fit her character. It should be chaotic and wacky and energetic. And this was kind of slow-paced and predictable and staid. I hate to be this negative, I usually try to either come up with something positive to say or just rip an episode apart with fury. This doesn't deserve either. This is just a bland episode. That really doesn't give me anything much to talk about at all. I'm sorry. hopefully next week will give me some more meat. If not, I may have to start doing, 2 episodes of Gravity Falls at a time. We'll see. I prefer to stick to one, but especially because it looks like there's still a long time to go before Steven Universe finishes its 2nd season. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the next episode, whether it picks things up a bit better. Till then, I'll, keep on. Thanks all, and see you next week.